Today, we explore how this date completely reshaped our world across five powerful dimensions: culture, education, finance, politics, and technology. This day proves that history never rests. Let's dive into the fascinating interconnected events of this date that continue to influence how we live, think, and innovate today. So, without much further ado, let's go.
Imagine sending a desperate plea for peace to a king, and he just throws it in the trash without even looking at it.
Mm.
And then imagine that exact, like 365 days later,
Yeah, exact day.
right, exactly a year later, on that same calendar day, you're publicly declaring total war. Well, today is July 4th, 2026, so everyone's naturally focused on Independence Day. But if you actually look ahead to July 8th, you find this is just a bizarre magnet for massive American milestones.
It really is.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into how this one single date connects political revolutions, financial extremes, and even space-age mysteries. We're giving you a shortcut to being perfectly well-informed on this incredibly dense history.
Yeah, and we really should start with that 365-day pivot you mentioned because, honestly, it sets the stage for everything else we're looking at. So on July 8th, 1775, the Continental Congress sends the Olive Branch petition to King George III. It was, a final desperate attempt to avoid war.
And the king just outright refuses to even look at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. He won't read it. And by doing that, he inadvertently radicalized the colonists. I mean, it proved to the moderates that diplomacy was completely dead, which leads us to exactly 1 year later, July 8th, 1776.
That's when Colonel John Nixon conducts the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. It's like slamming on the brakes,
Yeah.
only to decide to just completely floor the gas pedal.
That is a great way to put it. And that public reading set an impossibly high standard. The promise that, all men are created equal. It started this unfinished revolution for sovereignty.
An unfinished revolution that literally took centuries to expand beyond the people who wrote it.
Right, which brings us to another massive shift. Fast forward to July 8th, 1970.
Wait, 1970? That's Richard Nixon's administration, isn't it?
It is. President Nixon delivers a message to Congress that formally supports Native American self-determination. It officially rejected decades of, paternalistic federal policies.
Wait, really? Because Nixon is historically viewed as a pretty strict conservative. Handing sweeping sovereignty back to Native American tribes feels, I don't know, entirely out of character for him.
It does seem that way on paper, but it really came down to undeniable political pressure. So you have the African American civil rights movement of the 1960s, which had just exposed systemic inequality on a national stage.
Ah, so it set a precedent.
Exactly. That movement's nonviolent resistance directly inspired young Native American activists to launch the Red Power movement. The sheer momentum and public optics of that activism essentially forced the government's hand.
So it compelled a conservative president to finally acknowledge this deeply delayed promise of self-determination.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so July 8th tracks the painful expansion of political power, but looking at our sources, it also tracks the absolute extremes of economic power. Because on July 8th, 1889, the very first issue of the Wall Street Journal launches, and it cost just 2 cents.
2 cents, yeah. And this is a pivotal moment because it democratized financial data. I mean, for the first time, the general public had access to stock market averages.
Right, the index was built on sheer optimism, just designed to measure relentless American industrial growth. But I have to ask, could the original creators of the Wall Street Journal have ever fathomed what would happen just 4 decades later?
Definitely not, because that unchecked optimism inevitably hits a wall. Jump to July 8th, 1932. The Dow Jones hits its absolute Great Depression rock bottom, closing at 41.22.
Wow, that is a devastating 89% drop from its 1929 peak.
Yeah, it erased 36 years of wealth. It basically put the market back to 1896 levels. The irony here is just profound.
Because the index created on July 8th to celebrate economic expansion ends up, on that exact same date decades later, quantifying the near total evaporation of the economy.
Right. It just goes to show how the exact same tool used to measure a system's rise is required to document its catastrophic failure.
It's crazy. And while July 8th tracks these stark realities of American power on the ground, it's also the date that completely changed how we look at the skies.
Oh, definitely. I mean, think about July 8th, 1947.
Roswell, right.
Yes. Newspapers in Roswell, New Mexico report that a, quote, flying disc has crashed on a local ranch. And then the military aggressively backtracks, claiming it was just a weather balloon.
Which we now know from declassified government reports was actually Project Mogul, right?
Yeah.
The highly secretive program monitoring Soviet nuclear tests.
Exactly. But the actual mechanism of that cover-up is what's crucial here. By clumsily retracting the flying disc story to hide Cold War surveillance, the military created a massive information vacuum.
Oh, and the public immediately filled that void with their own theories.
Yep, effectively birthing modern UFO mythology. The government's secrecy itself created the myth.
That makes so much sense. And then, in a fitting end to our gaze upward, we jump to July 8th, 2011. Space Shuttle Atlantis launches on the 135th and final mission of NASA's 30-year shuttle program.
Just definitively closing the book on an entire era of reusable orbital spacecraft. When you step back and look at the sheer density of these events, you realize history isn't just a straight, predictable timeline progressing forward.
No, it constantly folds back on itself. You've got profound beginnings on July 8th, like the reading of the Declaration and the launch of the Wall Street Journal, just completely overlapping with monumental endings.
Like the shuttle program and those catastrophic market crashes we talked about. History really is layered.
It is. So with July 8th acting as a historical bookend for so many eras across politics, finance, and space, it leaves you with one final thought to ponder today. What monumental shifts might be quietly happening on this very day right now, just waiting for history to notice?
Hi viewers, family and friends. How did you like the content of this video? Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please write in the comments your name and the place you are watching from. Since our viewing family is spread all over the world, it will be nice to know which city and the country you are watching from, so I can say hello to you. Science and technology. Reading and listening to the historical accomplishments on this date of those who have gone before us, I, as a professional engineer with interest in structural engineering, energy-efficient buildings, ICF construction, and as Google Docs expert with interest in spreadsheet-based solutions, draw inspiration to ask of myself the million-dollar question. What would I accomplish today? Think about the Japanese practice of Kaizen. Let me know in the comments, what would you accomplish today? Your subscribing to the channel inspires me to post more such videos. Thanks for your patronage. See you in the next video. Sincerely, Yogi Anand.